My wife's dental pain ruined her confidence for years, but I secretly saved for a year to give her the smile she deserved, and the transformation was beyond what we ever expected. I've seen my wife suffer through years of dental pain. It was something she just couldn't escape. Cavities, abscesses, aching teeth that would flare up at the worst times. She hated it, I hated it, and yet, she never seemed to do anything about it. Every time I brought it up, she'd shrug it off, heading back to the same cheap, public dentist who always seemed to put a band-aid on the problem rather than actually fixing it. I watched her grimace as she chewed food, soft foods, mostly, things she could swallow easily. She avoided the things she loved, apples, steak, crunchy snacks. I could see the way her eyes would narrow when she smiled, trying to keep her mouth closed in pictures, the kind of smile that barely reached her eyes. She didn't kiss me the way she used to, her lips always tight, cautious, as though afraid of the pain that might come with even the smallest movement. I knew it wasn't just her teeth, it was her self-esteem, slowly being chipped away piece by piece. She was embarrassed by her smile, and the pain? It was constant. But no matter how many times I expressed my concern, she kept brushing it off, and I felt helpless. One night, after she had kept a bottle of cold water by the bed for the third night in a row to relieve the throbbing pain in her mouth, something snapped inside me. I was done watching her suffer. I knew she'd never agree to go to a real dentist. Not after all the times I'd suggested it and had been met with resistance. But I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to let her live like this anymore. So, I came up with a plan. I started setting aside part of my paycheck every month, telling her I was saving up for a new truck. She didn't question it. After all, my old truck was well past its prime, and I'd mentioned getting a new one for a while. But secretly, I wasn't saving for a truck at all. I was saving for her. Month after month, I quietly put away enough for a serious dental procedure. By the time a year passed, I'd managed to save up around $15,000, plus $5,000 from an inheritance I'd received. It was enough for the best dentist in town, someone who specialized in fixing years of damage, someone who could make her smile again. The day finally came. I told her I'd found a place to get the truck. She was hesitant, as usual, but I kept pushing, insisting this was something I had to do. She reluctantly agreed, and off we went. When we arrived at the address, she looked confused. "This isn't the truck place," she said, frowning. "What is this?" Her eyes scanned the building, clearly thrown off by the change of plans. I looked her in the eyes and told her, "They sold the truck I wanted, but I thought, maybe we could take care of something else today." It took a second for the words to sink in, and then it clicked. "You liar," she whispered, eyes welling up. "This was your plan all along, wasn't it?" I nodded, feeling a tightness in my chest. "Yeah. It was. I'm sorry." Her breath caught in her throat, and I could see the tears forming. "I didn't want you to do this. You're not a burden. I love you. You don't have to do this," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. But I wasn't going to back down. "Yes, we do," I told her firmly. "You deserve this. You deserve to feel good about yourself again. And I'm going to make sure of it." We walked in together. She was nervous, unsure, but she went. The appointment began, and I sat there, holding her hand the whole time, knowing this was the turning point. A year and a half later, she was a different person. Her smile wasn't just a smile anymore, it was a beaming smile. She bit into apples and roasted chicken with no hesitation, savoring every bite, enjoying the food she hadn't had the chance to taste properly for so long. Chocolate, something she'd avoided for years, became one of her favorite treats. She'd stopped hiding her smile. She showed off those pearly whites every chance she got, no longer worried about how her teeth looked. She kept up with regular dentist visits, making sure everything stayed perfect. She even encouraged me to go, which led me to become a patient at the same office, taking advantage of the family discounts. But it wasn't just her teeth that changed. Her confidence skyrocketed. We were closer, more connected. Our intimacy deepened, and she became more assertive in ways I hadn't expected, more playful, more affectionate. And me? I was just happy to see the woman I loved finally free of the pain and the insecurities that had held her back. She no longer had to endure the constant fear of dental emergencies or the shame that came with hiding her smile. In the end, the truck didn't matter. What mattered was that I'd done something for her that made all the difference. Because seeing her happy? That's all I ever wanted. Update 1. I noticed the signs before she did. At first, it was just the small things, the way she kept certain foods out of her diet because they hurt to chew. The way she'd nibble on food as if every bite was a battle she wasn't ready to fight. It wasn't something that popped out immediately, it was a slow, quiet change. She didn't want to admit it, but I could see the discomfort in the way she'd wince, her eyes betraying the pain she was trying to hide. I knew that look too well, the way someone tries to laugh through pain, smile through the agony, as though pretending it isn't there would somehow make it disappear. It didn't. I didn't blame her at first, I didn't understand fully what was going on. You know how it goes. At the start, she'd be dealing with a toothache here or there, a little abscess or cavity, and she'd just take a painkiller and go on with her day. But that routine was becoming normal, and the pain was never really gone, just numb temporarily. It took a while for me to realize that she wasn't just trying to tough it out, she was avoiding the real fix. She'd see the cheap public dentists who would offer what felt like band-aid solutions to the problem. Fillings here, a quick cleaning there, but never actually fixing the deep-rooted issues that kept coming back, like a wound that kept reopening no matter how many times it was stitched up. She kept telling me it wasn't a big deal, that she'd get around to it eventually, but I could see how much it weighed on her. It wasn't just her teeth that were hurting anymore. I saw how it was affecting the rest of her life. Her smile, something so simple, something I'd always taken for granted, wasn't something she shared easily anymore. I couldn't even remember the last time she had smiled without hesitation. Her lips would stay pressed together in pictures, she'd hide her mouth in photos, not because she was shy, but because it was a part of her she didn't want anyone to see. Even when she was laughing, I noticed the shift. There was always this slight pull in her expression, like she wasn't fully herself. But it wasn't just the physical pain that was cutting her. It was the emotional toll of it all. The way she had slowly started to lose confidence. I could see her getting quieter, more withdrawn. There were times when she'd hold back from talking, like she didn't want anyone to notice the way her teeth looked. I knew it wasn't just the pain, it was the way she felt about herself. And it broke my heart. I tried to convince her to go see someone who could actually fix it. Not just a quick fix, but someone who would take the time to really address what was going on. I knew that deep down, it was more than just dental work. It was about her feeling better, about her finally getting relief and getting back to being the person I knew she was. But she kept brushing it off. I didn't know how to convince her. It wasn't just fear of dentists, it was something deeper. She was afraid of being judged, afraid of what it might cost, afraid of someone else seeing the things she had been hiding for so long. At some point, I realized that if I didn't do something, nothing would change. I couldn't sit back and watch her suffer any longer. I knew how hard it was for her, how much she'd been bottling up. So I did something I knew she wouldn't expect, something she'd never agree to herself. I started setting aside money every month, as if I were saving for a new truck. I didn't want her to know what I was really doing, but I needed to make it happen. It wasn't about the truck, it was about giving her what she needed most, relief. For the next year, I put a little bit aside each month, carefully, quietly, without her knowing. It wasn't easy, but I had a goal. It wasn't just the money I was saving, it was the hope that one day, I could show her that she deserved more than what she'd been settling for. And then there was the inheritance. When I received a small sum from a family member, I knew immediately what it was meant for. I added it to the fund. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make sure I could get her the help she needed. It wasn't about a new car or anything else. This was for her. This was about fixing something that had been broken for far too long. 1 year and a half went by, and when I finally had enough saved, I contacted one of the best dental specialists in the area. The kind of place where you know they're not just putting a temporary fix on things, they're doing the real work. I made an appointment for her, and I didn't tell her. I told her we were going to look at a new truck, a new car, but she never asked for it. She didn't even know what I was up to. When the day arrived, she was confused. She didn't understand why we were at this office, where it didn't look anything like a place for trucks. She thought I had gotten the address wrong, and in a way, I had. I wasn't there for a truck, I was there for her. I finally came clean. "You liar," she said, and for a moment, I saw the shock in her eyes. She was overwhelmed, upset, maybe even angry, but then she softened, tears welling up. She didn't want me to do it. She thought she was a burden. She said I didn't have to spend this money on her. But I couldn't let it go on any longer. "You're not a burden," I told her. "You're everything to me, and you deserve this. You deserve to be happy again." We walked into the office, and for the first time in years, I could see her relax just a little. It took a lot of time, a lot of work, but over the course of a year and a half, things started to change. Her pain went away, her confidence started to return. She wasn't hiding her smile anymore. She was grinning from ear to ear, showing off her teeth without a second thought. Her whole demeanor shifted. She was eating food she hadn't been able to touch in years, biting into apples, chewing without hesitation, savoring every bite. I'd forgotten how much of her joy had been hidden behind that pain. Our intimacy grew too. She was different in a way I hadn't anticipated. She became more playful, more confident. The kisses came easier, without the tightness of restraint. The emotional wall that had been slowly building up over time started to crumble, piece by piece. I didn't know how much of it had been tied to her dental issues, but I knew now that she had been holding herself back for so long. And me? I was just grateful. I was happy to see her free from the pain, to see her return to the woman I had always known her to be. I didn't need the truck or any of the things I had thought I wanted. All I needed was her smile, and the knowledge that she was finally happy again. Update 2. It's been over a year since that day I finally took her to the dentist. Looking back, I can't believe how much it changed things. The little things were the most noticeable at first. She started smiling again, not the tight-lipped smile she used to give when she was trying to hide her discomfort, but a genuine, carefree smile. The kind she hadn't shown in years. The kind that made my heart feel a little lighter every time I saw it. It wasn't just her teeth that were getting better, it was everything about her. She wasn't hiding in the background anymore, constantly worrying about how her teeth looked. It wasn't perfect at first, of course. After all, you can't undo years of neglect and discomfort in one visit. But she was committed, and that's what made all the difference. The first few appointments were tough. There were a lot of tears, a lot of frustration, but also a lot of relief. She hated sitting in that chair, but each time she came out of the office, I could see a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She told me that for the first time in years, she felt like she wasn't just living with the pain and the shame of her teeth, but actually doing something about it. It was slow progress, but it was progress. It was weird at first, though. I didn't realize how much of our dynamic had shifted until it started to change back. She had been so used to hiding things, suppressing her discomfort, pushing through the pain. It had become part of her identity. And when that started to shift, I could see her grappling with it, like she didn't know what to do with this version of herself that didn't feel constantly bogged down by her dental issues. It felt like she was learning to be herself again, without the weight of that chronic discomfort. It was like watching someone finally take off a heavy backpack they'd been carrying around for years. At first, it was a little awkward, and I don't think either of us knew exactly what to expect. But I knew this was a step in the right direction. I kept reminding her that it wasn't just about the cosmetic stuff, though. It wasn't just about making her smile look pretty. It was about her feeling good. It was about getting back to being able to enjoy food without constantly wincing or avoiding the things she loved. It was about taking back control over something that had been controlling her for so long. And slowly, I could see that realization sink in. The first time she bit into an apple without hesitating. Hell, the first time she ate something crunchy without even thinking about it. I knew we had made the right decision. The best part of all of this, though, wasn't just seeing her teeth get better, it was seeing her confidence start to grow. It was like watching a plant slowly bloom after months of hiding in the shade. She started to shine again in a way I hadn't seen in years. She was laughing more, joking around, being herself again. I noticed she wasn't just keeping to herself when we were with friends. She was talking, engaging, and, here's the kicker, laughing with her mouth open. She wasn't hiding anymore. And that was a huge deal for me. Not just because I could see her happy again, but because I could see her rediscovering the parts of herself that had been buried under years of dental struggles. Even in our relationship, things were changing. The intimacy, the way she started being more affectionate, more spontaneous. She became a little more playful, more willing to take risks with me, and that was something I hadn't expected. It wasn't just about the physical changes, it was about how those changes affected everything else. She was no longer worried about how her smile looked when we kissed. She wasn't holding back, and that made everything feel different. Better. We were closer than we'd been in a long time, and it was like the doors to a new chapter had opened for us. It wasn't just her teeth that had changed, it was our entire dynamic. I started noticing that she was looking at me differently, too. Like I had done something for her that was bigger than I thought. I wasn't just a guy who helped fix a dental problem, I had helped her get her confidence back, and that was something that stuck with us both. It wasn't just about spending the money or going to the dentist, it was about showing her that she was worth it. And I think that's what resonated with her the most. Honestly, I can't even remember the last time we talked about her teeth in the same way. We still go for checkups, of course, but it's not a point of stress anymore. It's just a part of our routine, just like going to the gym or getting groceries. It's no longer the elephant in the room, the thing that we tiptoed around for so long. And it feels damn good to be on the other side of it. But let me tell you, I didn't expect this kind of change. I knew I was doing something important, but I didn't realize how much it would affect us. When I took that money out of my paycheck and started saving, I never imagined it would lead to this. I just wanted her to stop suffering, to feel better, to get her life back. What I didn't anticipate was that it would change our relationship, too. It wasn't just about fixing her smile, it was about giving her the confidence to be herself again, and that made all the difference. And looking back, I'm so glad I did it. I'm glad I didn't listen to the doubts, the fears, the parts of me that told me it was too much. I'm glad I didn't listen to the voice in my head that said, this is too much money, too much time, maybe it's not worth it. It was worth it. She's worth it. Every single step of the way, it was worth it. I guess if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that sometimes, the things we do for the people we love aren't always easy, and they're not always understood right away, but they're worth it. And maybe it's not about doing grand gestures all the time, but about recognizing when something is truly important, when someone needs you to step up. I'm glad I did. And I'm glad she's smiling again, in a way that feels real. Update 3. I can't help but feel a sense of gratitude when I think about how far we've come. It's been more than 2 years since I took that leap of faith, saving up money for something she never thought she needed, for something I knew would change everything. At the time, I didn't know how much it would affect not just her, but both of us. But now, looking at her, seeing her laughing freely and confidently, I realize it was one of the best things I've ever done. The changes have been nothing short of incredible. What started as a way to fix a physical problem has evolved into so much more than that. Her confidence has returned in a way I never expected. It's not just the smile, it's everything. The way she carries herself, the way she interacts with others, the way she engages with me. She's no longer holding back, afraid of showing parts of herself that had been hidden for so long. I've seen the transformation, and it's been so much more than I ever thought I was giving her. Her happiness is contagious. I see it in the way she greets people, the way she holds herself in a room full of strangers. She's no longer self-conscious about her smile or the way her teeth might look. I can't even remember the last time she didn't smile wide in a photo or laugh without covering her mouth. It's like she's not just physically healed, she's emotionally healed too. And I'm here for all of it. It's not even just the big moments, it's the small ones that make the biggest impact. The way she talks about food now, with excitement and joy. It's so simple, but the fact that she can enjoy a meal without thinking twice about it, without worrying that something will hurt or that she won't be able to chew it properly, that's a huge win. The little things like biting into a crunchy apple or tearing into a piece of roasted chicken without hesitation, it sounds trivial, but it means the world to her. And watching her enjoy those things again is a reminder of how far we've come. Our relationship has changed too. It feels like we're rediscovering each other in some ways, like the intimacy between us is deeper, more open. It's not just physical, it's emotional. There's a new sense of connection, like we've both shed some of the old baggage, and we're able to be more present with each other. She's more playful, more spontaneous, and I love it. I love that we can be goofy and affectionate again, without any self-consciousness or hesitation. It's been a game changer. And looking at her now, I can't help but feel proud. Not just because she's smiling again, but because I see how much stronger she's become. She's resilient, and she's shown me that, even in the toughest of times, there's a way to take control of your life and make it better. That's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. I think the thing that stands out the most to me is how much this process taught me. It wasn't just about dental work, it was about seeing someone you love struggle with something that feels so small but affects everything. It was about stepping up, even when it felt like I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing. But sometimes, when you love someone, you have to take those risks, even when you don't know how it's going to turn out. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I had to try. And looking back, I'm so glad I did. I never thought something like this would be so transformative, but here we are. I'm not just proud of her for getting her teeth fixed, I'm proud of the way she's carried herself through it all, and how far she's come emotionally. We both grew through this, and it brought us closer than I ever imagined. At the end of the day, the money, the appointments, the sacrifices, none of it matters as much as the happiness and the peace that came from it. I feel like I gave her the ability to take control of her life again, to reclaim a part of herself she had been silently sacrificing for years. And now? She's living it fully. She's happy. I'm happy. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. So here we are, a couple of years down the road. I see her smiling, laughing, enjoying life in a way I hadn't seen in ages, and it makes everything worth it. It's not just about teeth, it's about the person she is now, the person she's become, and the future we're building together. I'm so proud of her, of us, and of how far we've come.